Hello and welcome back to the Odd Shopper YouTube channel. I'm Isaiah. I'm here to break down this weekend's action at Richmond. So last weekend actually went pretty well for us. We hit our Toyota outright at Pocono at I think plus 150. It did require Denny Hamlin to get a little bit aggressive at the end there, but you know what? He delivered. We also over at Insider Access, we hit a Denny Hamlin outright at 11-2, I think. So that was nice to have on the betting card as a supplement. Yeah, great weekend overall. I'm looking to keep the momentum rolling into Richmond. We have a lot to go over today. I want to talk about our race preview. Obviously, I need to talk about our sponsors. Shout out BetMGM. We're going to talk about our outright bets, and we're going to have a prop as well this week because I think we're up to 4-1 on those since I started doing that. So that is quite the streak. All right, let's get into the race preview. We are here in Richmond for the Cookout 400. I'll give another shout out to Cookout for sponsoring this race and keeping me alive at absurd hours of the evening. Their food is great when you are. Anyway, so Cookout 400 over at Richmond. Richmond is a 3/4 mile flat oval with the short track package and the usual short track tire. So if you've heard that script before, there's a good reason why. It's because we've seen it a few times this year. We saw it, this exact car setup with the same short track package and the same tire at Phoenix, Richmond 1, and I think North Wilkesboro. So I'll get into what that means in a second. But we do have 4 total comparative tracks, 5 if you count North Wilkesboro. We have Phoenix. We have the first Richmond race. We have Martinsville. We have the North Wilkesboro All-Star race, but we didn't have that last year, so I'm mostly just using that as a footnote. And New Hampshire. Those are our best short flat ovals that compare well to Richmond. So last year, obviously with no North Wilkesboro on the schedule, 4 drivers had average driver ratings of 100 plus across the 4 events. 3 of them then went on to record driver ratings of 100 plus, which remember, only like 3 to 5 cars can do that in a specific event. At Richmond 2, including the race winner, Kevin Harvick. So there is a lot of predictive value in the performance at those 4 tracks. Specifically, there is a 79.7% correlation between the average driver rating at those tracks and then driver rating at Richmond 2. So, yeah, that is pretty meaningful. So we're going to lean heavily on those races. Let me pull up the odds board real quick. Now, the first pick of the day isn't going to come anywhere on here. It's going to be another manufacturer bet, but I'll explain why as we go along. So our 4-track formula here loves the bow ties. We again have 4 drivers who recorded average ratings of 100 plus across the 4 comparative events. However, one driver is also at 99.9, so I think it would be pretty inefficient to leave him off of our short list just for a measly 0.03, I think is the exact number. It may have been 0.05. Either way, it was something high enough where we needed to round up. So our drivers are Kyle Larson at 122.4. Remember that number because it's going to be miles above the rest of these. Kevin Harvick at 103.9. Denny Hamlin at 101.7. Martin Truex Jr. at 101.4. And William Byron at the aforementioned 99.9. So, also, I said that this tire setup was in use at Phoenix, Richmond, and North Wilkesboro. Do you remember who won those races, dear viewers? I almost said readers because I'm used to writing, but welcome to my life. So it was Hendrick Motorsports drivers in Chevrolets. It was, I think, Phoenix was Byron, and then Larson won, Richmond won, and then he dominated at North Wilkesboro. I think that's the correct order. Larson also won Martinsville for good measure, but, he was using a different tire, so that's not what I'm going for with this specific point. So Larson and Byron are very good at these tracks. They've shown it all year. I'm willing to trust them to carry the Chevrolet camp, but we're also getting exposure to a bunch of other pretty good drivers. Let's do the math on this one. So Chevrolet, as a manufacturer at DraftKings, you can buy them at plus 160. That is a 38.5% implied probability. So let's do some math. Using the odds available at DraftKings, Larson is 14.3%, Kyle Busch is 10.5%, and Byron is also 10.5%, which means we are already at 35%. There are some obvious big names missing, including Chase Elliott, who's at 6.3%, and Ross Chastain, who's at 5.9%, which already gives us 47.5%, better than the 38.5% by 9 percentage points, without even getting into the rest of the field, who, given the fact that the playoffs are fast approaching, the fact that the majority of cars outside of the playoffs are Chevrolets because they're also the majority of the field is another meaningful thing to mention. So a team that is likeliest to get aggressive is also likeliest to be driving a Chevrolet. Shout out Chase Elliott, who still needs a win to get in as well. Before we get into the rest of our picks, let me talk about our sponsors today. We've got BetMGM and Insider Access. So if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet to get access to these incredible odds over here, which we'll actually be talking about. I have an outright hanging over here for our last pick. When you sign up via the link in the description and you place your first bet over there, you can get 2 free months of Odd Shopper Insider access, which, if I haven't explained already, is the only way that you can get access to my full NASCAR betting cards, right? I don't post all of my outrights in the videos or in my articles. The only way that you can get full access to it is via our Discord, which, as a matter of fact, is actually really fun to be in right now. We're hitting a lot of baseball bets. I went 2 for 3 on Dinger Tuesday. It's a blast. You also get picks in real time, like live bets, things that we can't really do in video or article form for you. And you get to hang out and sweat the bets with us. It's a blast. I strongly recommend it. If you sign up at BetMGM using code, I think it's OS Insider, and place your first bet there, that's how you get insider access for free for 2 months. However, if you already have an account at BetMGM, there is another way you can take advantage of this special offer. Simply sign up over at stochastic.com using code IS Insider. That is IS Insider. It is my first 2 initials to get your first week of access for half off. After that, it's just $19.95. If we have another Dinger Tuesday like we did last weekend or last week, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to pay for a full month with your winnings on that alone. So yeah, I would strongly recommend signing up for Insider Access and start printing money today. Cool. So next pick. We have to scroll a little bit, but not too far because we're taking, it should not surprise you given the short list that I read earlier, Kevin Harvick at odds of 9-1. So while it should not surprise you to hear his name on the short list, it might surprise you considering the fact that he hasn't actually won a race this year. However, Harvick just took a similarly bad Stewart-Haas Racing number 4 forward to victory lane here last season after also not really doing anything other than running up near the front, but not competing for wins. So we've seen this script before in this next-gen car. I would not be shocked to see Harvick pull it off. Further, he has shown the speed and performance necessary at other short flat ovals, right? He was second in average rating across the 4 tracks for a reason. And it's, although he didn't really have the race-winning speed, he still was up front and competing for wins. And with the playoffs cut off really quickly approaching, maybe the team gets a little bit more aggressive in pursuit of a win. I'm not sure. They're pretty safely above the cut line, but you never really can predict how teams are going to handle that position. I think last weekend we saw Daniel Suarez get real aggressive, even though he was above the cut line as well. So yeah, I like Harvick at that number. I would not be shocked if they really want to get him a win in his final season and locked into the playoffs here. Further, we know that Stewart-Haas Racing is targeting short flat ovals like New Hampshire and Richmond and Martinsville, because number one, we saw what they did at Martinsville. They led the most laps between Ryan Preece, Kevin Harvick, and Chase Briscoe. I think they led almost 3/5 of the race or something like that. So an absurd amount of laps. They didn't win the race, but they showed enough speed to really warrant some confidence. Further interviews with Preece before New Hampshire suggested that the team was focusing on both New Hampshire and on Richmond too, because they're similar short flat ovals, and they know that they can run well at them given what they did at Martinsville. So we're going to take Harvick at 9-1 over BetMGM. You'll find that as short as 15-2 elsewhere, like at DraftKings, which I think is a much more fair number. There's a decent amount of market-based edge here, but that's not the only reason why we're taking Harvick. He's just damn good. All right, let's wrap up with the prop. We are up to 4-1 with the prop, so we're going to have one in the video this week. Obviously, the Discord has some more picks. I have a 3-driver outright card. I've mentioned the other 2 names, but I won't tell you who they are that I have action on this weekend as well. So let's do a prop. We're getting a little bit dark horsey here, but a lot of the analysis I just did extends to this pick. We're going to take Chase Briscoe, who is all the way, let's scroll for a minute down here. Wow, this is getting kind of far. Yeah, Chase Briscoe, 80-1 to win the race. I don't know if he'll pull off the win, but top 10. Oh, yeah, top 10 all the way over here. Give me Chase Briscoe top 10 at 9-4 or plus 225. So again, this is a little bit dark horsey, but remember everything that I just said about Stewart-Haas Racing, his team. Further, Briscoe has been one of the better Stewart-Haas Racing cars this year. Obviously, Harvick's been the best. Briscoe has 3 top 10s. Almirola just has 1. Preece, shout out Ryan Preece, still is waiting for his first top 10. So fingers crossed for our boy to get a top 10 finish before the year's over. He deserves one of them. Anyway, I won't ramble about Preece. Briscoe has recorded 3 top 10 finishes, all of which came at the short flat ovals I listed earlier. He got P7 at Phoenix, he got P12 at Richmond 1, he got P5 at Martinsville, and he got P10 at New Hampshire. So that's a 3 for 4 hit rate. That's pretty good at the 4 comparator tracks. And yet his implied odds at plus 225 are 30.8%, which is objectively inefficient. I would probably not sell that line for anything shorter than like plus 150. Other books have it. I think FanDuel has it at plus 175, which is, I think, a fair price. But it's still a little bit exploitable, not nearly as flagrantly as exploitable as the 9 to 4 you can get at BetMGM. So I strongly recommend you take advantage of that number before it disappears, because it probably will after qualifying, since Stewart Haas Racing has been aggressively pushing for qualifying or working on their qualifying program at the short flat ovals per Ryan Preece's interview before New Hampshire. Cool. Let me pull this odds board out of here so we can go through our recap. We're going to target Chevrolet, DraftKings plus 160. If it's not Kyle Larson, it will probably be William Byron this week, or it could even be Chase Elliott somehow pulling off a win out of nowhere. We're also backing Harvick at 9 to 1, because if it's not Chevrolet's, then it's probably him doing something aggressive in a Ford to get his first win of the year at 9 to 1. We've seen this movie quite literally at this track last year. Our prop this week, Chase Briscoe, top 10, odds of 9 to 4 at BetMGM. Again, that's plus 175 over at FanDuel. 9 to 4 converts to plus 225. Implied odds on that are 30.8%. Briscoe has 3 top 10s and 4 starts at short flat ovals like Richmond. Although he did miss the one at Richmond. He finished P12 here in the spring. But you know what? That's 2 positions off. We'll forgive him for that. He's very close to 100% hit rate. And we're getting that odds of, again, 30.8%. Cool. That's going to do it for this week's video. As always, like and subscribe if you found this content useful, especially if I make you some money. And I'll see you back here next week.